Hey everyone, welcome to Zack Attack Reviews. Thank you for joining me for my review of Minari, part of my Throwback Thursday series where my subscribers get to vote on movies that I've never seen before and for me to watch for the first time. So hit that sub button so you can join the fun. A24 is one of my favorite studios, probably my favorite studio making movies right now, and I'm super excited to finally get to check this out. But is this American Korean slow burn family drama any good? Well, let's start with that. Let's start with the good. Korean American family moves to an Arkansas farm for its American dream. Amidst the challenges of this new life in the strange and rugged Ozarks, they discover the undeniable resilience of the family and what makes a home. And there lies the strength in Lee Isaac Chung's script. Right there, the simplicity of the film and the way that he just makes the characters feel raw, real. And as the director of the film, he does not get in the actor's way or what they're trying to do a display. I feel like sometimes some directors get in the way of the actors trying to do fancy camera tricks or edits, but he just leaves the camera on them and put it in the perfect position to capture the emotion that they're going through in that moment. And this story is something that a lot of people can relate to. This movie is set in the 80s, but even to this point now, immigrants are coming and moving from different countries, different cities, different states across the globe and can relate to starting a new life and going through it. And if you cannot relate to it, maybe your parent or grandparent and you heard stories. Everyone can relate to what this family is going through in some way or another. Stephen Yeun, who I'm a big fan of since The Walking Dead, plays Jacob, a man running from his past in Korea and his failures that happened when he moved to America to go to California and how much they struggled there. And he's determined to make something of himself, something that he built on his own for the better and the worse. He struggled to make this new farm on the Arkansas Ozarks on this plotted land that no one else wanted. The people who were on that land past previously just had the worst luck ever. And even though he knows this, he thinks that he's going to be able to turn it around. And I really like this character because just like a lot of the characters of this film, they sit in this real, raw, realistic thing where they're not perfect at all. Like there's parts of them that I like and parts of them I did not like. And when it came to Stephen Yeun's Jacob, I liked how hard he worked and he showed how hard he worked and how much he cared for his family. But at the same time, he made that overcome himself so much, his ego, him thinking that this is the most important thing and forgetting sometimes you need to just sit down and listen. A lot of the conversations that he was having with his wife, there was a lot of tension between them. And his striving to get this American dream was real and raw. And, you know, he was so desperate to get to where he wanted to go. And I really enjoyed his performance, but I also wanted to smack him up beside his head for some of the things that he was doing. His tension-filled relationship with his wife, a lot of conversations that they had, her trying to display her feelings, how she felt. Just in the beginning of the movie where he first shows the trailer that they're moving into, she says, "This is not what you promised." Right then and there, you can see that he's upselling this lifestyle just so he could get her there in order to live his dream and not hers. And every time throughout the movie she was trying to display how she felt, he kind of said, "Let's not talk about it." And it was just frustrating to see that relationship where things could just be really easily done, where if he just heard her out, maybe things would be a lot more smoother. And I was just like, "Come on, Jacob, just listen." And then one of the parts that really got to me was when she said that you're prettier when you're happy and you're smiling. I think things like that was said throughout the movie to multiple characters where I was just like, wow, why would you say that to someone? But it's real. This is how a lot of people talk, especially within their lives, with their family, with their loved ones, when no one is watching. So it brought a lot of realism to it, but also frustrated me that they were treating each other like that. Minari, who plays Monica, did a phenomenal job as the wife as she tried to balance, being selfish and also caring for the family, but leaning more in her, putting her own needs and what she wants for the family, supporting her husband, making sure that her daughter and son were safe, and then also halfway through the movie trying to make sure her mother was safe and sound and together with them and not by herself in Korea, and all the struggles that go through that. And I think she did a great job showing that emotional range, carrying it through a lot of silence. There's a lot of times where she doesn't have nothing to say. She kind of just looks and you can read everything on her face. I've never seen her in a movie before, but I want to see more of her. She did a great job of really displaying that wife that's there, that's the traditional wife, that's the homestaying mom, but wants more and was promised more and is getting less, and had a lifestyle or lived in a city where things were felt a little bit more glossy and fancier, even though the stuff was harder, but she appreciated the time that she had with her husband and her kids. They were closer, even though they were living in harsh conditions. Now their conditions are a little bit easier. They own their own land, but now she doesn't get to spend time with her husband because he's out slaving out in the fields trying to get this farm up. And I think that she did a great job displaying all that conflict within her. And when it was time to get into those arguments, the ranges that she went into, where she was kind of soft with it and then she would get a little bit more angrier. She just did a great job of performing everything that was done she needed to do in this script. And the grandma, probably my favorite character in the film, maybe my second favorite character in the film, played by Chung. I don't know if she got a Academy Award nomination in the year that this film came out. I think it was 2020 or 2021, but she did a phenomenal job as a grandma halfway through the film, coming into the house, living with this family, and just injecting so much humor and life and fun into the film. She was mischievous. She wasn't the traditional grandma you would expect who bakes cookies and cooks for the family and just this warm, loving mother. She was this fun character that really lived for herself and wasn't trying to be that person that was this motherly person to her grandkids. And what the youngest even pointed it out. He's like, you're a fake grandma. You're not a real grandma. And she's like, whatever. I'm trying to sit down and watch my wrestling and enjoy my life. And I feel like part of that was like she knew something was happening to her and she was getting close to maybe the end. And she was just like, I'm trying to just have fun and live my life. And the way that they led up to the mother coming, it made me think she was going to be this traditional Asian grandmother or mother who was very domineering and judgmental, but she came in and she was just so nice to her daughter, to Monica, and brought so much relief to her, and she felt like she wasn't alone anymore when they were together. And that opening part where she finally comes in and she's hugging and showing love to all the family members made me feel really relieved, because I thought they were going to go down that stereotypical path, and it was just refreshing to see that type of character. And she was really a standout in this film, and her performance after she has a stroke in the film was also phenomenal, because she goes from this jokester, lively character, from this character that seems hollow and broken and just trying to hang on just too little and kind of not fully aware of everything that's going on. That transition was phenomenal. It almost felt like a different person, and I think she did a great job of being that emotional, heartbreaking core to the film. And the kids were also really great in the film as well. Noelle Cho played the youngest daughter, and she did a really good job as the responsible older sibling. Very mature. She did a really good job delivering her lines and everything. She didn't seem like an inexperienced child actor at all. She didn't get much to do, unfortunately, but what she did get to do, she knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. But the star of the show is Alan Kim, who plays the little kid David. He is absolutely my favorite character in this cast, because he was just such an adorable, mischievous, funny kid that had such growth, because at first he didn't want his grandma to be there, because he saw that the topic of the grandmother caused so much strife between his mother and his father. They argued all the time over the fact that she was coming, and he didn't know her. He just didn't know who she was. He grew up with his mom. He grew up with his dad. Grew up with his sister. He didn't know who this new entity was. And their relationship, it was kind of like contentious between each other, and how it grew throughout. By the end, there was like this running gag, where they kept telling him not to run because he had this heart murmur, and they didn't want him to overstress his heart and something happened to him, especially since they were in the middle of nowhere and the next hospital was like an hour away. This beautiful moment towards the end of the movie where she's lost, she's had a stroke, something devastating happens, and she's just lost walking around the woods, and he finally gets to run, and he stops her and tell her, please come back home. So that character growth from him not wanting to talk to her, not wanting to eat any of the food that she was giving, and not wanting to interact with his grandmother, to him running and overexerting himself and grabbing her and telling her to come home because how much he realized he loved her, was just such a sweet moment. Almost brought a tear to my eye. And just different moments, him peeing in his bowl and giving it to her to drink. I was like, oh my god, if that was my family, that kid would be dead. And I thought Stephen Hughes Jacob was going to, but the grandma saved him. And just a lot of different moments, I was like, this kid is a mood, especially when that white kid started asking him weird questions like why his face flat and what his name was. And he kind of looked at him and just walked away like, okay, I'm done with you. I was like, I like this kid. This guy knows what he's doing. So he really was a standout. And I think he got supporting nomination, and he well deserved it. He was great. And the movie's called Minari. And Minari is a Korean plant that grows anywhere you can plant it. It stays strong, so it can plant its roots, and no matter where you plant it, it's gonna do what it needs to do to grow and be around and bring that culture into a different space. And I think that covers the themes of this film. Not only was these family trying to discover the American way, but they also were trying not to lose their way, not lose their culture, and completely become Americanized and have like a half and half situation going on. And they slowly talk about this thing throughout the movie, but it's not until the end where you really capture what that represented for the family itself and how it comes from the grandma who wasn't in America and wasn't Americanized, was trying to bring the Korean culture into the family again because they were doing so much American things. And the film, representing a lot of nature-like things, owning land, uprooting and creating new roots and stabilizing and doing for your own, and all the fears and tribulations and the harrow that this family went through to get where they got to towards the end. I think it was really, really great metaphor by the end where I really, really resonated with me a lot. And the movie culminates in this devastating fire. And I was just so frustrated that this happened because at this point, the grandmother is deteriorating after her stroke. She is kind of delirious in certain aspects, and obviously they have to make sure that their son is okay too. But at this point, Jacob and Monica, the parents, are at this consensuous point where Monica wants to leave and go back to California. She could take care of her mother in a more state-of-the-art area where hospitals are closer and everything like that. And it looks like these two are about to get a divorce and split and everything like that. So they want to make sure that the son was able to travel without any issues. And we find out that David is getting better, but for some reason, the four of them go there to take care of this, but the grandmother is left alone, and I just didn't understand that. And there was a lot of that, lack of observation and caring and making sure you had the right parental advisory over somebody. Like a lot of that happened throughout this movie because so many people were trying to do so many different things and not spending that time to make sure the people who were more in need of the family was looked after multiple times. And this was the most devastating one because she starts a fire and basically destroy a lot of his crop after he got this huge deal. So devastating. And it was really a boiling point to the movie, which really was really scary. I thought that this family was going to die because they were trying to get the crops and everything like that. So the way all that culminated and showed like they needed to this devastating thing that happened to bring their family closer, which is what ended up happening. The family comes closer towards the end and really starts together. And it just was really powerful in the way that it was put together. Let's talk about the bad. So the movie's plot is very, very simple. You see the A24 tag on the film, you think, okay, yeah, some plot twist is going to happen, something scary maybe, because, they're famous for like scary films or something different in the film itself. But this is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple, but I think that is a big positive for it. But I know a lot of people who may think that, this is kind of pointless because they forebode some things happening to this family from outside sources. A lot of times they were like, oh, we can leave the kids alone because who's going to be out here messing with us? So at that point, I was like, oh, wow, somebody's going to come at the night and mess with them. Or like the way that the people were looking at them when they went to church, and you thought something was going to happen. But all the conflict happened internally, which I thought was for the better because it was about the family. But I know a lot of people will probably come into this movie looking for something a little bit more. And I felt like that throughout the movie until I got towards the end. So that combined with the pacing of the film, I think that the movie is paced in a certain way where certain parts do feel a little slow. This is more of like a slice of life film where it captures a certain moment throughout this family's time together than something that has a strong narrative or plot driving force. It's kind of just showing parts of their life and going back and forth between the different characters and showing their interactions. This is really a character driven film showing how the characters are feeling, how they're dealing with hiccups and things that they're going through in life. And if that's not something that you're into, this might be a total turnoff. I am more of a fan of a character. I'm a fan of character driven plots and stories, but I'm not a huge fan of slice of life movies. So I was kind of mixed on the way that was structured without there being like a deadline to something, or something to drive the force that there's like a ticking time on, like, okay, are we going somewhere? At what point I was just like, are we going anywhere? Well, what's the point of this? I feel like I'm just watching people live their life. And then at the end is where I got it. But that pacing can make you feel like you're not watching anything happening. Let's get into my verdict. So despite the slow pacing and the lack of narrative push throughout the film, where a lot of threads were not concluded, I really enjoyed my time with this family and the themes that were going on in the film and how it made me feel. And that's the most important part about a film, is how it made me feel. And I really had a lot of different emotions going on. I laughed, almost cried. I really felt for this family. I really wanted them to win and get on the other side of this thing and achieve their dreams and stick together as a unit, because they kept separating as the film was going on. So I really, really enjoyed this. I'm glad I got to check it out, and I think this is a really, really good movie and something someone should check out. You should check it out at least once. So with that said, I'm going to give Minari a C+. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you personally rate Minari if you saw it? Do you think it's a really, really great film, or is it something that you thought was pretty boring? I've seen a lot of positive reviews on this film, but I have seen some negative ones where people felt like it was boring. So I'm wondering, how do you guys feel overall, especially people who voted for the film? Most likely you like it. So like I said before, I do Throwback Thursdays on my channel. So the polls come up on every Thursday. You vote for a film that I've never seen before, and we're doing Asian American and Pacific Islands Heritage Month on my channel now, since that's the month right now. So those are the films that I'm picking. So definitely hit that subscribe button so you can join the fun. Like the video if you like my review. Subscribe to the channel again, like I said, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of my reviews, reactions, live discussions, and more. You can catch more of my content right now.